And that era too, I remember at Camp Pendleton, again, the instructors at the School of Infantry were all combat vets. People were turning down Purple Hearts. People were saying like, I came back, my buddy didn't. I don't need a Purple Heart. Like there was, oh man, how do you describe it? I don't want to even say gung ho because it's a very solemn and
Well, we called it the enemy marksmanship ribbon. It was like a not a good thing to have.
yeah, I don't think people can't. I'm just trying to get context of that era. How could you accept a Purple Heart? Like that was the level, that was the standard at that time.
I know guys that I worked with that were like, if you quote unquote earn one, then it was bad SSPs. Like your standards and your practices were wrong, and that's how you ended up with a Purple Heart. And hindsight's 2020. However, comma, it wasn't the case, Like you could be out on a mounted patrol and your your distances are good, your patrol formation is immaculate, and then just random guy out of nowhere takes a pop shot from you at you from the wood line and you get clipped.
Yeah,
There's always the variables that your SSPs cannot, your SOPs cannot account for.
right.
And to have something like that happen and your
But that's
buddy,
just another example of, say, what we were just talking about, somebody like looking at your Purple Heart and sizing you up with the, at least especially with the attitude of that day, saying, "Oh, how did you, that's based on an error."
yeah, the Purple Heart guys, they were a lot of us were, are you broken? Well, I'm not broken, you're broken. And
Yeah.
it was just not a good thing. And then you go to Wounded Warrior Battalion, and oh man, like you're going in there because you got your TBI and you got some like shrapnel injuries, and then you have to go do PT next to a guy with one leg and an arm, and you're like, I just got blown up, or was clipped or got some shrapnel, and you're like, how do I get to be in the same room with this guy?
Right. Which compared to your normal person, a shrapnel is a huge deal. Being clipped is a huge deal. But then in our world at that time, you kind of talk about it like it's paper cut.
Yeah, I mean, I remember one day I had to do sutures on my chin in the mirror of our MRAP.
Wow.
And probably one of the only times when I was overseas where I was thankful I shaved frequently on that deployment because I didn't have to like
Right.
shave my face and clean the area up and then put the sutures in. And like thankfully it was only two, but doing that in the middle of Afghanistan on the side box looking into a mirror on an MRAP, that's a pain. And you
Yeah.
didn't hear me complain about it because I wasn't gonna be like, hey, this needs stitches. I gotta go back to the field hospital. We're gonna end this mission, and readiness and capabilities out the window at this point. And I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna throw a couple of stitches in here. I'll grab some IV or some antibiotics out of my bag, and then we're gonna keep going.
Yeah. And that's also another thing to note is that I know people were telling me when they were, forward deployed, there would be a patrol, they had to have a corpsman with them. That patrol comes back, another one has to go out. We only have one corpsman. You got to go back out, Doc. So it's the double duty. You're in many ways working even harder.
Especially with QRFs, if it was your squad or your platoon's day for QRF and you had a patrol that morning and you get called out for QRF in the afternoon,
Explain what
you're
QRF is for those who are watching
oh,
or listening.
that's your quick reaction force. So if you are in a theater of operation and you have what's called troops in contact, which is a firefight or some other case where the troops have to be engaged, they call for a quick reactionary force, QRF. So you either mount up in a mounted patrol or you do a helicopter assault, which you hop into a helicopter, they fly you out close enough, and then you ground assault in from there. But yeah, doing those back to backs, not sleeping for a few days. Sometimes you got tactical movements that take several days. We had a couple of operations where you didn't come back to the OP for 3 weeks. So,
Wow.
by the end of that, you've pretty much worn at least the same pair of socks for 4 or 5 days. Nobody has 3 weeks worth of socks in their go bag.
Yeah.
So, you're turning them inside out, you've designated a jerry can in the company for, in your platoon, your squad, just for doing laundry. So you throw a little dish soap in there, shake the crap out of it, do what you got to
Yeah.
do, and then, hopefully your sock's clean enough to put on for another day or two.
Yeah.
Baby wipes, baby wiping for a few weeks, not actually taking a real shower. And then, and also too, like, where are you going back to? You're gonna go back to a shower tent where the water is just like lukewarm at best. So,
Yeah.
that's what it is. You're just rinsing off anyway.
You had the most impressive med bag I've ever seen.